Welcome back. We've had Billy Blakeman look at the handicaps. We've now got Tom Marriott, who's going to take a look at the group races on the first day of the Ebor meeting at York, and a fascinating contest. And we're going to start off with a lesser of the group. Well, it could say it is. It's the Group 3. It's the Tattersalls Acomb Stakes. Good evening, Tom.
Good evening, Peter. How are we doing?
I'm good, thank you. And let's start off with this race, and let's go straight in with your selection for this race.
Straight in with the selection.
Yeah.
Okay, let's not beat around the bush. I like Dutch Connection. The reason being, I've seen this horse at the track at Goodwood when I was there at the glorious meeting, and just so physically imposing, Pete. I mean, I went down to the paddock and he looked far more forward than the rest of the horse in the ring there. And if he's anything like he was turned out on that day, I can imagine that he'll be the pick of the paddock, and around a 12-1 shot at the moment. Physically imposing, as I say, and far forward. I think Charlie Hills' run, a Dutch Connection, looks a good bet.
Okay, I mean, I like Growl. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I mean, Brian Meehan, the reason why I say that is Brian Meehan, first time out, if he gets a win, it normally is quite smart.
Yeah, and Brian Meehan as well. He's in a good touch with his 2-year-old. I think he's had four or five winners with his maiden 2-year-olds already, just in August. And Growl, of course, nice 10-1 touch if you were on that day. I feel like the odds might just be going on him now, and if you weren't on that 10-1, you probably won't get those sort of odds again. I see where you're coming from. A debut at Ascot is always something to note, but others in the field look more imposing.
In relation to Aidan O'Brien and everything that he takes over here, really have to be feared. I'm not altogether sure the form of Jamaica is that great. I mean, it won an Egg and Spoon race at Galway. What's your feelings on Jamaica?
Yeah, you say Egg and Spoon race. I mean those races at Galway, they are still respectable races, Peter. But you look at Aidan O'Brien. You say he takes all these horses over here, and yes, he may do well with the top 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds group horses. But you look at his record in this race. Now, he hasn't had a winner since the turn of the century, year 2000, with Hemingway, who was a 13-8 shot on. And Jamaica's not going to be anything like that come Wednesday there. And I feel as though as a 3-year-old, maybe going over a mile and further, that's when we'll be expecting this horse to win. So I wouldn't advise Jamaica on Wednesday there in the Acomb, no.
And one I think might well finish in front of it, I know that it only won a free-runner race last time, Prince Gagarin, but that race, Jubilee Novice Stakes, does sort of tend to dish up some good winners. We've had Shifting Moon win that before. We've had Poet's Voice and Sirius. I mean, do we give a chance to Prince Gagarin?
I think we're going to have to. This is one to look at the market on. Trained by Eddie Dunlop, but part owned by John Dunlop. And now, if the money comes for this one, it will be very interesting. Of course, the Silks are known to every punter across the country, and we'd love to see these very sort of popular Silks get across the winning line. But I think, like Jamaica, bred to go a little bit further, very much like his half-sister there, Oasis Fancy, who we saw not do overly well in the race at Goodwood over the glorious meeting. And again, going further is where I'm keeping my eye on Prince Gagarin. I think there'll just be one that'll have a bit too much toe, such as I mentioned, Dutch Connection, even the one that you mentioned, Peter, Growl, probably got a little bit more toe. And the other one to keep an eye on, without a doubt, in this race is, as you do with all Richard Hannon 2-year-olds, Bassatine.
Yeah, I mean, this one by 8 lengths last time out. Again, I'm not convinced the form is that good. I mean, it's got a mark of 99. You can never tell when a horse wins by that far actually how good they are. This will tell us tomorrow, won't it? Yeah,
I mean, the thing is you see a horse win by 8 lengths. Now, I mean, don't bother looking at all the horses that finished in behind it. A Richard Hannon 2-year-old turns up and it wins by 8 lengths. That's enough for me. And I'm wearing the Sheikh Hamdan colours, who's having a wonderful season, a real resurgence for the owner there. Bassatine is definitely one to keep on the right side of. Maybe play him in a match bet against something like Jamaica. It's
interesting, actually, because on his debut, that race has featured 7 winners since that debut run in that race. So just to wrap this race up, your selection?
Well, I'm definitely going to stick with Dutch Connection. As I say, 12-1. I'm sure viewers are looking for a bit of value, 12-1. So that should place in the top 3 there for Charlie Hills, and William Buick retains the ride after winning Glorious Good with Dutch Connection. And in a match bet, take Bassatine to probably beat Jamaica. If you get him at good odds to beat Prince Gagarin and Growl as well, take them all on.
OK, let's move on to the Neptune, the 305. I think Kingston Hill is too short in the market. It's a horse that I want to see run over St Ledger Field. The good ground's going to be a worry, especially if it firms up there. Your thoughts on the favourite Kingston Hill?
It's a funny one, isn't it? We obviously saw him, everyone saw that the win in the Racing Post Trophy in more or less bottomless ground there, and since everyone's been thinking he's a soft ground horse, and that was really franked again in the Guineas, where five lengths back on Good to Firm. But I think the key is here, and it was shown when second, a really good game second to Australia in the Epsom Derby, that if the ground is good, or even the slightly firmer side of good, it's the distance, So Kingston Hill will love the 1 mile 4, stepping back up in trip, of course, from that slightly falsely run affair in the Coral Eclipse, won by Mukadram on that occasion. Kingston Hill back up to the 12 furlongs is the key today, and I think that's why the punters are getting stuck in around 11 to 8 as we talk now, Peter.
Now, Snow Sky is one you do fancy. I mean, he won the Gordon Stakes last time. Basically veered towards its right, which was a slight concern. I'm not convinced that form is that strong, with somewhat just behind and somewhat disappointed last time out, although third in the Eclipse. You like this one. Tell us why. You think it might be an improver?
Well, I think it might be an improver. Sir Michael Stout, of course, although he's had a few turned over in recent weeks, leaving punters with burnt fingers, need I say myself as well, Pete. But 2 out of 3, he's in the Great the Great Voltage here is Sir Michael Stout, and he's already had some of these horses behind him, which is mentally good, but also on paper seems a good thing. The Derby trial, he beat Hartnell, he beat Sudden Wonder, who still might come on to improve. And obviously in that race at Goodwood recently, he had top horses behind him then, Observational, some 6 lengths back, and Observational would be where I go second in this race. So I'm almost discounting a lot of the field to stick with Snow Sky.
Do you think that form of that race was particularly strong? In terms of a horse that I like in this race is Hartnell. I just think the horse runs quite green in front. I think there's more improvement. I mean, he's entered for the Irish St Ledger and the UK St Ledger. What are your thoughts of dropping back in distance for Hartnell?
Well, that's it, dropping back in distance. There's absolutely no doubt that this horse stays. Winner of a Queen's Vase, you have to stay to win that one. And last time out, the Bahrain Trophy, which is obviously the extended, 1 mile 5, isn't it?
Yeah.
Again, I think it's something where Joe Fanning will, you wouldn't be surprised to see the front-running specialist Joe, again, he's having a cracking season, to bowl along in front there. But if something else takes up the running, I can't see Hartnell going past horses. If he leads it from the front, maybe have a bet in play and take Joe Fanning to keep squeezing him along in front, as we so often see.
John Gosden's won this race 3 times in the last 10 years, and I know it's an outsider at the moment, and it's not for me, but at the firm ground might suit is Marzocco. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, John Gosden just has great form up at York, really, doesn't he? I mean, he's already been beaten in the slightly softer ground at Goodwood by Observational. Now, in that race, that particular piece of form, if you want to pitch the two against each other, 11 furlongs at Goodwood is pretty much like 12 furlongs. As you know, I like to say it's a stiff uphill finish there. And also, Observational didn't really get much luck in running that day. I think he would have had the better of Marzocco and probably gone on by a length or two on that occasion. So I'm going to discount that one, Peter. Marzocco, not for me.
OK, so your selection?
Well, of course, everyone wants to put up Kingston Hill, but like I'll go on to tell you for the Juddmonte International, I'm not going with Kingston Hill. I'm looking at value again. I'm going to take Snow Sky, and I'll take Observational. Observational may not place in this race, but keep on the right side of him throughout this season, and as a 4-year-old as well. But Snow Sky and Observational.
OK, let's move on to the Juddmonte International. Everyone's eyes will be on Australia, which may well be his penultimate run of the season. I'd suggest probably one more run, and that will be it for Australia. The trainer has said the best horse we've had at Ballydoyle. Your thoughts on Australia and whether you think it can take tomorrow's race?
Well, that is what the trainer previously said, but you've got to be slightly... I don't know whether you'd be worried or concerned. I wonder if you're concerned, actually. I don't know whether you're a backer of Australia, but Aidan O'Brien's obviously come out and said in the most recent press release, really, that he says he's a good bit heavier than he was for Epsom and the Curragh, and he's really just only about ready to start again. And
I think it's fair to say, I mean, only 2 horses have come out the Derby and won, so there are question marks.
This is question marks, and he's also said he thinks he's going to come on a lot for the run, arguably stating that he's going to pitch him, and maybe this is a stepping stone to something like the Champion Stakes or the Arc, of course. Now, if you're backing a horse at 4 to 6, you want to make sure this is the race that the horse is laid out for. This is the one where conditions are exactly spot on. No worries with the ground, of course, but 1 mile 2, maybe this is the stepping stone, and I'll be taking him on at the odds.
Now you're going to be taking him on with the Great Gatsby, and any dry on the ground will certainly suit. I mean, after last time it floundered in the mud at Longchamp, and any firm in the ground will good price as well, Tom.
Yeah, a lot of people would consider the Grey Gatsby, and they'll tell you they've got it wrong, Pete. That they think he likes to dig in the ground. But I mean, if you look at his best performances, he won on debut and second in the Acomb Stakes at York last year. At York, I may add again, on good to firm ground. The Darnty was only just a very soft side when he won that. And his win in the French Derby was on good ground. I mean, French quoted good, we know, is always a touch soft. And now if you look at his worst performances, the Champagne Stakes beaten 3 lengths in good to soft, nowhere in the Racing Post Trophy in soft, and nowhere in the Prix de Paris latest in very soft ground. He returns to that firmer ground. He returns to the preferred trip of 10 furlongs. And Richard Hughes takes a ride. Why not?
I tell you what I do like in this race, and I don't think we can ignore, and that's Telescope. I think it was beat by Gooden last time, and obviously was giving weight as well. So Telescope for me personally, but your thoughts on Telescope?
Oh, I just think he's such a class horse. As I do Australia. Of course, you've got the age difference here, and Telescope should be superior given that difference there. But the problem is, again, I just don't think conditions are right. I'm not, you can never go against what Sir Michael Stout does as a trainer. But would you pitch Telescope in at 1 mile 2 if you had 1 mile 4 options? For me, I think I'd prefer to see him run in something like. I'm not sure, but if you pitched him in at 1 mile 4, for me, that's where I'd be backing him. 1 mile 2, you've got other horses in the race, such as the Grey Gatsby, such as Mukadram, who actually perform at this distance, and arguably A-Rod might be performing better. So Telescope, I would rather see over 1 mile 4 when the money's down.
You could well be right. I mean, Telescope was quite a overhyped horse, but then did deliver, and I think ran well last time. And one more we're going to mention is Mukadram, who won the Eclipse and deservedly so. Messi raced that. But what do you think about tomorrow? Is he going to lead from the front, or is it going to try? Hannigan going to try and lay second or third?
No, you know what? I've become quite bitter about Mukadram, not because of a punt that's gone the wrong way, but the victory at Sandown. I don't like to begrudge horses of victories and trainers of training successes, and mark my words, Willie Haggis has had a tremendous finish or mid to finish it in this season here on the flat, but his win at the Eclipse didn't really do it for me. However, did come to frank the form, of course, in the King George. And now he was only a head behind Telescope on that day. Again, conditions that the slightly firmer ground, I think, will suit. And the odds have shown that, Telescope 5 to 1, Mukadram now 11 to 2, much more similar in the market. So, yes, Mukadram will probably have his race. And again, maybe one for in-play betting. Again, he likes to bowl along outside in front, but will probably have the battle on his hands with Kingfisher, who would love to set a real good gallop for both, for Australia, but for punters who are on Telescope, you'd love to see a good gallop set by Kingfisher.
We are running out of time, Tom, so just tell the viewers at home, people listening, the 3 selections in the group races, please.
It's got to be the Grey Gatsby in the Juddmonte International, for many surprise, 14 to 1. Snow Sky around 7 to 1 at the moment in the Great Voltage, with a keeping an eye on Observational at 20 to 1. And in the Group 3 Acomb, the 2-year-olds races, the one that I love, Dutch Connection 12 to 1, but keep on the right side of Bassettine at 9 to 4.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed, Tom. Happy punting.
Cheers, Peter.
Thank you very much for joining in with the midweek special Bet Racing Nation. We're back again Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. See you then.